Few wrestlers in this generation will go down as being more influential than Cody Rhodes. Yes, this is a man who is truly self-made, with him starting his career in WWE, all before leaving the company, going on a vision quest, and then returning to become the #1 wrestler in the world today. But how did it all happen? Well, join us as we take a deep dive into the entire tale right now. The opening line of his theme song says it all: wrestling has more than one royal family. That's right, while the McMahons take a seat at the head of the table, outside of maybe the Hart or Anoa'i clans, there is perhaps no family more celebrated or important in wrestling than the Rhodes. Cody Garrett Runnels was born into this lineage on June 30th, 1985, back when his father Virgil Runnels, more commonly known as Dusty Rhodes, was by that point already a multiple-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. As a child then, Cody grew up knowing he was part of a dynasty. Hell, by the time he started amateur wrestling in high school, his older brother Dustin was already making waves in WCW. So in response to this, the younger sibling decided to follow in his family's footsteps into the world of pro wrestling too. Of course, he wasn't entering this new environment blind though. No, he had in fact been learning the fundamentals from his father from the age of 12 years old, and had even done some work as a referee while in high school. Who trained him? Well, that would be Al Snow. And this level of training, combined with his family name, meant it wasn't long before he got signed by WWE's developmental system, Ohio Valley Wrestling. Yes, it was in May of 2006 that Cody got his start, quickly teaming up with Shawn Spears to win the company's tag team championships. And after that, the rookie even had a brief OVW heavyweight title run, all before he and Spears started feuding with each other over the television championship. Ultimately, though, this program ended in June of 2007 when both men would go to a no contest inside of a steel cage, marking the son of a plumber's last appearance with the promotion. What was the reason for this? Well, WWE had big things planned for him and had drafted him over to the big leagues. So it was then that on July 2nd, 2007, Cody made his debut on Raw, appearing in a backstage segment with Randy Orton and his father Dusty, beginning a feud between Orton and the young Rhodes. After that, well, Cody got into a series of short-term programs with the likes of Daivari, Charlie Haas, and Shelton Benjamin. Sure, it was clear to see at the time that he was still young and green, but the potential was there for him to be great, and WWE recognized this, with them giving him his first real push on December 10th, 2007 when, alongside Hardcore Holly, he became a World Tag Team Champion after defeating the team of Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. But Holly wouldn't be his partner for long. No, soon Ted DiBiase Jr., who himself was a second-generation star and son of the legendary Million Dollar Man, began feuding with the new tag team champions. And this led to a match at the June 29th, 2008 Night of Champions pay-per-view, where the title holders were supposed to be taking on the team of DiBiase and a mystery partner. Unfortunately for Holly, however, this mystery partner turned out to be Cody himself, as he turned on his teammate and joined forces with Ted, becoming tag team champions with him instead in the process. Yes, things were moving up for the grandson of a plumber and his new partner, and while they would lose those titles by the end of the year, the young duo would soon be on the upswing again when they aligned themselves with Randy Orton to form the stable Legacy. What was the gimmick of this team? Well, it was that each man was a second, or in Orton's case, third-generation superstar. And with Randy already being a former WWE champion by this point, it was hoped that by putting him alongside the two young up-and-comers, his star power would rub off on them. Interestingly, though, it's since been suggested that WWE pegged Ted DiBiase Jr. to be the breakout star of the group, something which obviously didn't happen. That's right, while Cody has gone on to far bigger things, DiBiase has since retired from wrestling altogether. Back then, though, both men were riding the wave, with Cody making it all the way to the final three of the 2009 Royal Rumble. And after that, both he and DiBiase got involved in that year's WrestleMania main event feud when they helped their stablemate Orton wage war against Triple H. Of course, this was the young Rhodes' first real taste of the main event scene then, and he took full advantage of it, often shining in six-man tag matches during this period, with one of the most memorable of these being the Legacy's winning effort against the team of Triple H, Batista, and Shane McMahon at that year's Backlash pay-per-view, where, due to a stipulation, Cody was even able to help Orton regain the WWE title. And as if that wasn't enough, Rhodes and DiBiase would also feud with the newly reformed D-Generation X at this time, with the two young talents getting a major spotlight by having a tag team match with Triple H and Shawn Michaels at the 2009 SummerSlam. In fact, so good were things going for them here, they even got a win over the iconic stable a month later at Breaking Point, all before finishing out the trilogy at Hell in a Cell. So with their newly risen stock at a peak then, it was about time for the team to branch off on singles runs, as happens with all units in WWE eventually. And that would come about when dissension reared its ugly head and the stablemates started having issues beginning at the 2010 Royal Rumble. This led to a triple threat match between the three members of the Legacy taking place at WrestleMania 26, and though Rhodes and DiBiase would still be aligned for a while afterwards, such a match represented the real end of the group. The only question left then was what would the future WWE champion do once he and Ted DiBiase finally parted ways too? Well, after being moved to SmackDown in the 2010 draft, Rhodes took advantage of a poll which had been taken on who the most attractive male and female wrestlers were. Yes, he ended up being voted the best looking man here, and so used this to morph into dashing Cody Rhodes, a narcissistic character who would go as far as to offer grooming tips to fans, all while also becoming extremely protective of his face during matches. Unfortunately for him then, during a match with Rey Mysterio on January 21st, 2011, Cody suffered a legitimately broken nose. However, seeing this as an opportunity to further his character, he began wearing a face mask here, telling the world that he had required extensive facial reconstructive surgery as a result of the incident, and so was no longer to be referred to as dashing, but instead undashing. Obviously then there was a clear Phantom of the Opera vibe to this, and it was very entertaining to watch Cody develop in terms of promo and character work as a result of it. Hell, at one point he even began handing out paper bags to audience members and demanding that they wear them as their ugliness and imperfections offended him personally. And as if that wasn't enough, he would also put paper bags over the faces of opponents after beating them. Of course, it was all made intentionally hilarious by the fact that the mask Rhodes wore was clear plastic, so you could see his face the whole time and tell that he looked pretty much the same as he always had. So much fun would this gimmick be, in fact, Cody has since said that it represented his second best work as a pro wrestler, and it's hard to argue with this. Needless to say then, he'd be on a roll as the summer came around, with all this leading to the August 12th, 2011 edition of SmackDown, where he achieved a lifelong ambition of becoming Intercontinental Champion after pinning Ezekiel Jackson. Yes, while its luster had faded by that point, the Intercontinental title was known in years prior as being the workhorse belt within WWE, often held by the best wrestlers of their day such as Macho Man Randy Savage or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And as Cody had grown up idolizing those very performers, getting a chance to hold that same belt himself almost meant more to him than winning the WWE title would have. So big of a moment was this for him, in fact, he even went as far as to successfully lobby the company to bring back the classic 1980s white strap design of the title, something which delighted many old school fans at the time. Where would he go now that he was champ? Well, Cody once again found himself in a program with Randy Orton, although this time he was far closer to Orton in terms of position on the card than he had been before, so it was less of a master-student situation and more of a beef between two equals. And as evidence of this, the Rhodes son even managed to get a win over his former mentor on the September 12th edition of Raw. From there, the title reign continued as Cody dropped the mask and took on all comers, including the likes of John Morrison and Booker T, all before losing the belt to the Big Show at WrestleMania 27, ending things at an impressive 233 days. But that wouldn't be the end of his time in the spotlight. No, his next notable program after this would see him team up with Damien Sandow in September 2012 to form the Rhodes Scholars, with the two early on vowing to win the tag team titles. Despite numerous attempts, however, they were never able to capture the gold, and so it was that in early 2013 they mutually agreed to dissolve the team but remain best friends, giving audiences a rare amicable tag team split. Of course, later that year, a feud eventually developed between the two after Sandow cost Rhodes the Money in the Bank contract so he could win it for himself. And this led to Cody's first babyface turn since 2008 during a series of matches where the highlight was probably Rhodes throwing his former teammate's Money in the Bank contract into the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, while he had hoped to be a main event force permanently come 2013, Cody was still stuck in an upper mid-card role. Despite this, however, he would soon reach his creative peak in WWE up until that point when a story began with him getting kayfabe fired from the company after standing up to Triple H and the Authority. Of course, this firing served more than just a storyline purpose, though. Yes, it also gave Rhodes time to go on his honeymoon with backstage interviewer Brandy. The pair had been dating for some time by that point, you see, and had gotten married in September 2013. So being away from the ring for a while gave them both a chance to enjoy being newlyweds before being thrown back into the chaos of the wrestling world. And all the while that he was away, the story continued on screen when Cody's brother Dustin and father Dusty got involved in an attempt to get him reinstated. In the end, however, after Dusty was attacked by the Big Show, his children decided that they'd had enough of waiting and gate-crashed Raw, taking out the Authority's attack dogs The Shield in the process. This then led to a match at the 2013 Battleground pay-per-view where the Rhodes brothers were able to defeat Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and win their jobs back in one of the most emotionally satisfying moments in wrestling history. That said, they would eventually lose those belts at the Royal Rumble in January 2014, and after the loss, Cody began losing confidence in his abilities, with this leading to him deciding it was time to leave the team, going away to rediscover himself in the form of Stardust. Who was Stardust? Well, he was a gimmick clearly designed as a play on his older sibling's Goldust character, all while also being a reference to his father's private jet's name back in the 80s. So, with the union between the brothers strong again now that Stardust was here, the pair would re-team in the summer of 2014 and on August 18th win the tag team titles once more after beating the Usos. Needless to say then, all was well for a while after this. In fact, even when they lost the belts at that year's Survivor Series pay-per-view, the two brothers remained on the same page. That would change, however, when Cody turned heel on Dustin on the February 16th, 2016 edition of Raw. And this was the big moment for them because, behind the scenes, the two had plans for a major feud they hoped would be able to blow off at that year's WrestleMania. Sadly, though, Vince McMahon didn't see the potential in this and instead decided to have the match between them take place the month before at Fastlane. As you can imagine then, Cody was disappointed with this and began to realize that he was not going to be booked as the star he believed he could be at this time. And times would continue to get even tougher for Cody as it was on June 11th, 2015 that his father Dusty Rhodes would pass away. From here then, the Stardust character would morph into something more resembling a comic book villain who, at one point, even got into a feud with Arrow star Stephen Amell. Yes, the American Nightmare had hit another ceiling, something which was evident in the fact that after this program was over, he'd mill around in the mid-card, forming the Cosmic Wasteland with the Ascension and losing to the likes of Apollo Crews and Zack Ryder on TV. So in hindsight, it really shouldn't have come as a surprise that on May 21st, 2016, Rhodes announced that both he and his wife Brandy had asked for his release from the company, something which would be granted the following day. Why was he leaving specifically? Well, as expected, Cody would cite frustrations with his position on the card as his main reason for leaving. So now going by the moniker of the American Nightmare, a play on his father's American Dream nickname, he quickly started working on the indie circuit, something he had never gotten a chance to do before now. And here, the young Rhodes proved his motto, do the work, was more than just empty words, as he filled up his diary with every date he could take, wrestling the likes of Zack Sabre Jr. and Chris Hero in Evolve, and taking on performers like Eddie Edwards and Mike Bennett in TNA, all while also becoming a regular member of the Ring of Honor and New Japan rosters. And it was here that he'd first meet the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, with him quickly being invited into their inner circle as he joined the Bullet Club. This particular corner of the Bullet Club was, of course, by now something of a splinter group, though, referring to themselves as the Elite. And the Elite, whose numbers also included the likes of Hangman Adam Page, were becoming something of an online sensation thanks to their YouTube series, Being the Elite. And it was also around this time that Cody helped to put out the first ever All-In event, something which served as a precursor to AEW. That's right, it was on September 1st of 2018 that the show went ahead with Cody becoming the first second-generation NWA champion in history by beating Nick Aldis. And while he didn't go on last that night, Cody was clearly the main event to both the live audience and those watching at home, showing just how big of a star he could be. And it was also here that Cody and the Young Bucks met Tony Khan, with them helping to create All Elite Wrestling, a new wrestling promotion that was officially announced on January 1st of 2019. But they wouldn't just be roster members here. No, at the initial press conference, Cody revealed that he, alongside the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, would act as executive vice presidents for the company, as well as on-air talent. So, with everything now set up and ready to go, on May 25th, 2019 at Double or Nothing, the inaugural AEW event, Cody finally got a chance to have the match he'd wanted to have with his brother Dustin all those years ago, with this one being an instant classic, proving just how great the American Nightmare could be. Obviously then, given his status as the company's top babyface, once AEW's weekly TV show Dynamite began airing soon thereafter, Cody found himself the #1 contender to the world title, a title held at the time by Chris Jericho. And the stipulation to this match was that if Cody should lose, he would never be able to challenge for the title again. Of course, most fans expected him to win the gold here then, given the stipulation at play, but in a twist, he ended up losing after being screwed over by his kayfabe best friend MJF. So they would go on to feud after that in a program which peaked with a segment where in exchange for agreeing to a match, MJF demanded Cody take 10 lashes across the back. When it was all over, then you wanted nothing more than to see Cody get his revenge. In another twist in the story, though, he didn't. No, MJF ended up beating Cody in their long-awaited match at Revolution on February 29th, 2020. That's right, it seemed that while arguably still the biggest babyface in the company, Cody was insistent on making sure he didn't dominate the main event scene and wanted to ensure that other, younger talents got put over too. Not that Cody would get nothing in terms of wins, however. No, he got his first singles title when he became the company's inaugural TNT champion at May 23rd's Double or Nothing pay-per-view after winning an 8-man tournament that ended in a match between him and Lance Archer. And from there, Cody, keen to use this title victory to build new stars, started a weekly open challenge where anyone could compete for the belt, whether they were a member of the AEW roster or not. But none of them would be able to beat the champ. No, that wouldn't happen until August of 2020 when Cody had to leave AEW for a few weeks so as to film a part in a TV show. So before going, he put over Brody Lee as strong as could be done, having him absolutely destroy Rhodes and win the belt in just over 3 minutes, looking like a monster in the process. That said, Cody would return on September 23rd to get his revenge, beating Brody in a dog collar match to once again become the champion, with this being the bout which also ended up serving as the Dark Order leader's swan song before he tragically passed away just a few months later. As to where Cody would go after this, well, this was where things started to fall apart for him in AEW as, now being iced out of the world title picture, as well as rumors of backstage friction between him and the rest of the Elite, leading to him no longer being affiliated with that group on screen. And at the start of 2020, in a move which shocked everyone, both Cody and Brandi would announce that they had not been able to come to terms for a new contract with AEW, and that, as a result, they would be leaving with immediate effect. That's right, it was a truly unforeseen moment, and one that remains a point of discussion to this day, as the exact circumstances surrounding Cody's exit from AEW have never been made public. The only question now was where his next landing spot would be, and that landing spot would be a return to WWE. It all happened at WrestleMania 38. That was when, after the weeks leading up to the show had seen Seth Rollins be told by Vince McMahon that he was going to have a mystery opponent at the showcase of the Immortals, the Architect headed down to the ring during the middle of the show. And as he awaited the arrival of a man he'd be facing, the lights went out and the familiar sounds of Downstate began blaring out of the loudspeakers in the arena, signaling that Cody had returned. But this wasn't the previous WWE version of Cody. No, this was his own presentation through and through, complete with the same theme music he had used over the past few years. And now Rhodes was, like his father before him, able to use his momentum as someone who'd achieved outside of the WWE to roll right in and start a win streak. A win streak which began with him defeating Rollins a total of 3 times over the course of the spring. That said, it would also be during this period that Cody hit a bump in the road, as after tearing his pec off the bone during a workout session in early June of 2022, the American Nightmare would be forced to work his final match against Seth, a Hell in a Cell match, with one of the nastiest looking injuries ever seen on screen. And that meant that even if Cody would have to take the rest of the year off following it in order to get surgery and heal up, he'd remain hugely over, as no one could forget about the insanity of seeing his bruised up body fight it out inside of a cage for 25 full minutes. So when he finally returned at the Royal Rumble in January of 2023 then, fans everywhere were ready for him to win the whole thing and become the company's new top babyface star. And those fans would not be disappointed as it turned out, because after entering at number 30, Cody would book his ticket to WrestleMania. Who would he be challenging here? Why, Roman Reigns, of course. That's right, this was right in the midst of the Tribal Chief's 1,316-day-long run as undisputed WWE Universal Champion. And as the showcase of the Immortals neared, it became clear there were now 2 options to finally dethrone the champ and end the Bloodline saga: Cody or Sami Zayn. So when Sami failed at Elimination Chamber in February, everyone assumed Rhodes was going to win at Mania, but in another moment that shocked us all, he wouldn't. No, that match would end up with him coming out on the losing end too, looking dejected in the middle of the ring as Roman Reigns continued on with his reign of dominance. Yes, from this point, we'd see Cody have to work his way back up from the bottom again. And this was why, as the spring turned into summer, he'd find himself recovering by doing things like winning a feud with Brock Lesnar, briefly becoming undisputed WWE Tag Team Champion alongside enemy-turned-friend Jey Uso, and then winning the Royal Rumble for the second year in a row on January 7th, 2024. All that was left then was for him to challenge Roman again at WrestleMania 40 and this time beat him, something fans eagerly anticipated as the WWE began to enjoy the biggest wave of success it had undergone in decades. That said, there would be a spanner thrown in the works which almost ruined everything, as it was on the February 2nd episode of SmackDown that The Rock came back to challenge Roman at Mania instead, forcing Cody to step aside in the process. Obviously then, this was not what fans wanted to see. No, they wanted to see their guy finish the story finally. And so it was that a bit of fan backlash broke out, and The Rock would now morph into his villainous final boss persona, and the main event of WrestleMania 40 Night 1 would be a tag match pitting he and his cousin Roman against Cody and another enemy-turned-friend in Seth Rollins. What would be the stipulation here? Well, if the heels lost, then the Bloodline would be banned from ringside for the big world title match the following evening. If the faces lost, however, it would be Bloodline rules, with this putting us back in the same situation we were in a year prior when the odds became too much for the American Nightmare to overcome. And it would be The Rock who ended up pinning Cody here, meaning that as Night 2 of WrestleMania dawned, the challenger was at his lowest ebb yet. But this wouldn't mean he was down and out completely. No, as the big showdown between him and Roman came on April 7th, the challenger would bring some friends along for the ride with him. And that turned the whole thing into a scene which has since been described as WWE's version of Avengers Endgame. Yes, everyone got involved as over the course of the bout, there were interference spots from Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, John Cena, The Rock, Seth Rollins, and The Undertaker, with all of these ultimately nullifying each other and allowing Cody to hit a final crossroads at the 33-minute mark to become the new undisputed WWE Universal Champ and finally end Roman's reign of dominance. Yes, Cody Rhodes was now the new top dog in WWE. His story was complete. Here was someone that, after everything he'd gone through, had proven he really had it in him to be the face of WWE. Where would he go from here? Well, defend his title against all comers, of course, with the first defenses being against AJ Styles and Logan Paul. And after that, he'd fall back into the orbit of the Bloodline as then leader of the group, Solo Sikoa, challenged him at SummerSlam on August 3rd. But Cody would manage to win this one, all with the help of a very unexpected ally in a returning Roman Reigns. That's right, for the first time, Reigns and Rhodes were now on the same side, and this led to them going as far as to team up together at Bad Blood on October 5th to take on and defeat the combined threat of Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. So with the Bloodline now in his rearview mirror again for the time being, Cody would move on to further defenses as the year ended, with this seeing him end up on the opposite side of the ring to the likes of Gunther and Kevin Owens. And it was the KO feud which saw the champ briefly bring back the old winged eagle design at Saturday night's main event on December 14th. As to where he is now in 2025, well, after dispatching of Kevin Owens once and for all at the Royal Rumble, Cody is now officially on the road to WrestleMania 41. Yes, it's been one hell of a ride for Cody Rhodes, and who knows what's to come in his future. Maybe we've still yet to see the best of the American Nightmare.